All right, so our next item or task at hand is to create a bar graph. And the way this bar graph is going to work, we're going to create a bar graph which will basically show male versus female average ratings, okay? So we'll use some high-tech code here, and at the end of the day, the way this is going to look like is if the bar is ahead of 0, that means that men favor it, and if the bar is less than 0, that means that women favor it. So we're going to be using the top 50 most popular movies. So first thing first is we want to get those values, the top 50 movies. The way we can do this is by saying, let me quickly exit out of my chart. Okay. The way we can do this is by saying most 50, so the most popular 50 movies, is equal to lens.groupby. And you can group by anything you want here actually, but I'm going to just do movie.id. Okay, and then I want the size of this, so what the size is, dot order, and you should probably know this by now. We're just going to set ascending equal to false. So again, we want the top values first, and how many do we want? We want 50 of them. So printing out most 50, we should get the first 50, the first 50 movies, right? It's grouped by movie ID, and we have ordered them as that. Let me print out lens and make sure everything is okay. Okay, so lens looks good, movie 50, most 50 looks good. So the next thing is we want to separate out those male and female ratings, okay? Right now what's happening is gender is a separate column, and we have our ratings as a separate column. So the way this is going to work is we're going to put male and female as the columns, and then rating will then become a row. So the concept might be a little bit confusing to you, but the way I want you to think about this is, so currently right now we have like one row right now will have something like, taking a look at this, no, don't take a look at this, but we have our gender, so we have all these as males, and we have our rating, okay? So the way I want to do this is our gender, M and F, will then become a column. So instead of seeing gender over here, you're going to see M and then F. And then based on whatever the gender was, we're going to put that rating. So the way it's going to be is M over here, F over here, and then whatever ratings there were for that specific thing, then it's going to be there. So M, then 4, M, then 5, M4, M5, and we'll have the female values over here. And by doing so, then we'll easily get the difference. Okay, so right now the way this is working is we'll subtract the female rating from the male rating, and if it's positive, that means that males liked it better. And if it's, or I'm sorry. If you're going to subtract the male values from the female values, if it's positive, that means that the males like the movie better, and if it's negative, that means the females like the movie better. Okay. So let's go ahead and reset the index in case we have changed the index anywhere. So I'll go ahead and say lens.reset index. We're going to set it back to movie ID. And we're going to say in place. So remembering back to our indexing lecture, we are now making sure that it's been indexed by movie ID. And we're going to talk about a concept called pivot table. So the way pivot tables works is you can now change up this, okay, wait, I'll explain it via the code. I'm not too good at explaining how this is going to work. Just follow me here. Pivoted is equal to lens.pivotTable. Okay, and you're going to specify some parameters. First parameter is the rows. So what do you want in your rows? We want the movie ID and we want the title. Okay, so that's basic. And in our columns, we now want the gender. So the reason why, we want gender over here, and the reason why we're doing gender is because we want the male-female to appear up top now. So columns equals gender. I'm pretty sure it's gender. Let's take a look at the data. Yes, it's gender. And now what we're going to be doing is what's the values that are going to come in this new column. So we want the ratings to come. So comma values is equal to rating. Okay. And go ahead and just specify fill value to be equal to 0. So hit enter. It gives me an error saying unexpected keyword argument rows. So the reason. Alright, so I did have to change up this code a little bit. I'll just quickly show you what I did. Instead of doing our normal rows, I had to change it to index. So that was an issue I was running into, and calls is no longer the valid variable name, it's now columns. So index is equal to movie underscore ID comma title, columns is equal to gender, values is equal to rating, fill value is equal to 0. And when I printed out pivoted, I now got movie ID title, the F values, and then movie ID title, the M values. So again, this data is probably looking a bit confusing to you as to what's happening. So I do have an example over here that I want to show you guys how the pivot table works. I did follow this for part of the course where I fixed the pivot issue. So right now, just look at the data here. Right now what was happening is they had date, they had the variable names AAA, BBB, CCC, DDD, and then they had the values for each variable, okay? Now this data, it works, but wouldn't it be better if you had the column name A, B, C, D, and then underneath each of those columns you have the three values. So 0 point whatever, minus 0 point whatever, minus 1 point whatever. So using the pivot table, okay, they use df.pivot, the index is equal to date, comma, columns is equal to variable. So they specified that whatever the variable was, that's the columns. And then the values is equal to value, okay? So taking a look at what happened, the outcome was they got A, B, C, and D as the columns, and then the values then came underneath. So the pivot table is quite useful when you're trying to reshape data. That was the whole goal of basically showing you this example. And taking a look at this, we now got our female, and then we have our male. So let's go ahead and try printing out pivoted.head. And we get movie ID title, female, male. So we basically achieved what we wanted to, okay? So the gender section had the female and the male, and we brought these up top. The movie ID title remained the same, and we now have female values and we have male values, okay? So the next thing that we want to do now is what? Well, we want to get the subtraction, the difference, okay? So the way this is going to work is you want to add a new column called diff. And the way we can do that is by saying pivoted, and then in square brackets diff is equal to whatever. So pivoted diff is equal to this column, so pivoted.m, minus the f column, so pivoted.f. So the way we can do this now is say pivoted.m minus pivoted.f. It's actually pretty neat. So now what this function is going to do is it's going to create a new column, and each time in each object it's going to say, hey, what's the m value, what's the f value, let me subtract, and I'll put in that difference. So now if we print out pivoted.head, we get f, m, and difference, where difference is, again, the difference between m and f. And now you can see that Toy Story is a better rated movie for male, GoldenEye is for women, Four Rooms is for male, Get Shorty is for male, and Copycat is for women. So what we've done now is we've created a sort of comparison base to see, hey, do men like these movies better or women? So we're almost done with our creating the bar chart, and we have one or two more things to go. So the first thing is, remember we created our most 50 index up top? Well, we're going to be using that here, okay? So go ahead and create a new variable name. It's going to be called disagreements. And this is equal to pivoted. We're going to get some values now. We're going to say pivoted.movieid, okay, dot is in most 50 index, dot index actually. So you're probably confused at what's happening here, and we're basically saying get those values of pivoted whose pivoted.movieid is in. So again, is in is a pretty straightforward function. We're basically saying if it's in the most 50 dot index, okay? That looks good. Now one last thing here we have to say is, what do we want of it? We just want the diff, okay? We don't care about our f values anymore. We don't care about our n values anymore. We only care about the div, okay? So hit enter, and it gives me an error saying data frame object has no attribute movie ID, okay? So I'm not completely sure why we are getting this error. Let's go ahead, and I think the reason is we have to reset our index. So say pivoted.reset index movie ID. So that will make our index back to normal, and then comma in place equals true to make sure that it stays. So now let me just go ahead and try pivoted.movie ID. Yes, so now we're getting our correct values. Let me just go back and get this line. So disagreement is equal to pivoted. Which part of pivoted? The pivoted.movie ID, which is in the most 50 dot index. And what do we want of this entire thing? Only the difference part. So hit enter. And now what I want to do is let's go ahead and just print out disagreements.head. So what happens? We get our title and we get the difference. Isn't that neat? So look at what we've done. We've taken a data frame we had tons of values, tons of data. We learned how to, first of all, use a pivot table, get or reshape the data. We learned how to subtract the data. And then we learned using the isIn function how to find out which data is inside of this bigger data frame and only get those, okay? So we're almost done with this lecture, with this whole section. Last but not least, we have to create this bar chart. So I know we've imported matplotlib before, but in case you guys have maybe created a new file, maybe a new shell, maybe you restarted the shell, just go ahead and import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Okay guys, almost done. Last 4 lines to go. Go ahead and first of all specify the titles and stuff. So the way this is going to be is male versus female, average ratings, and let's go ahead and put a new line and say where difference greater than 0 is equal to favored by men. Okay, that's the title. Let's go ahead and set the X label. Our X label is going to be the average rating difference. Average rating difference. And our plt.y label is equal to title. Okay? Alright guys, last line that we're going to write for this whole pandas section. Are you ready? I know I am. So go ahead and say disagreements.order.plot. And what I want you to do is go ahead and say kind. Again, this is a horizontal bar chart, so go ahead and say kind is equal to bar h. And you can also specify the figure size. Let's go ahead and leave that for now, and let's take a look at what happens. So I'm going to call on plt.show. Okay, so because we didn't specify our fig size, that's why we're getting this scrunched up data. So let me go ahead and specify my plot size, or my figure size. So close this out. Let me get this back down. And comma, so kind is equal to bar, comma h, and fig size is equal to, let's do 10, 15. Okay, hit enter, plt.show. I'm sorry, hit enter. Okay, so this looks much better now. You guys probably cannot see what's on my screen. I'm sorry for that, but just take a look at this first data, or you know what? That's not good on my part. So let me bring this up for you guys. Let me play around with the white space a bit, so you can see this part at least. Let me make the left a bit more so that you can read what's happening. You know how to change the left by now. You know how to change the bottom and the top. So I'm gonna let you guys play around with this. But let me just try to show you the values of what's happening. Okay, that's too much. So just wait, guys. I'm sorry. Minimizing this, yeah, it's bad, okay, but just understand that we have the minus 0.4, minus 0.20, 0.2 point for 0.6. So I'm going to expand this data and I'll just talk. You should have the exact same data in front of you. So it looks like Terminator is the most popular movie for men. At the bottom, Independence Day, wow, is actually the most popular movie for women. So that's pretty interesting. I didn't think that they'd like it. Mission Impossible is actually pretty popular for women as well. I guess that might be because of Tom Cruise. Shawshank Redemption, again, is also popular with women. Going back up top, Forrest Gump for men, Toy Story for men, Men in Black, definitely for men. Star Wars, I never was a big fan of, so I'd probably give it a bad rating, but Pulp Fiction, I know, was a good movie. Terminator 2, again, part of the Terminator series, obviously it's going to be good. Anyways, guys, awesome job, okay? So we have covered basically all the basics there is to data analysis with Python. We started off with the Matplotlib series. We learned how to create some fantastic 2D and 3D plots, graphs, and charts. Then we moved on to Pandas. So we learned about data analysis, reading in CSV files, writing out CSV files, manipulating the data, getting what we want, when we want, and where we want it, okay? So I couldn't be prouder as an instructor to see how far you guys have come. Again, great job. So if you've enjoyed my course so far, if you've enjoyed my teaching, you thought that this was a very helpful course, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review. It helps future students and it helps me. Other than that, if you have any questions whatsoever, if you have any feedback so far, if you think that maybe you needed to add some more lectures for Pandas and some more lectures for Matplotlib, please do. Tell me that. So I love constructive feedback in the first place, so if you have any constructive feedback for me, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, that's it for this section. I hope you have understood the basic concept of Pandas, how to use it, how to create charts using our data, and so on. And I'll see you in the next section. Thank you guys and have a fantastic day.